Ladies and gentlemen, there is a lot of things that happen in this country that is weird, that leaves you scratching your head, sort of asking, what the hell just happened there? But yesterday was one of these moments that sort of tops the charts, at least for the year 2025, when you have the national security, or the head of the national security cluster, Miss Ntshavheni, coming out with one of the weirdest reports ever. The report itself focuses on perhaps there's a coup d'etat that's being planned, but there's also no coup d'etat that's being planned, and they have everything under control. It is a mess. So right after reading all of this, I saw that Colonel Chris Wyatt uploaded a video about this, and I thought, look, I'm going to go to an expert to hear what an actual general has to say about this, an actual colonel has to say about this. And he touched on a number of really good things. He, like I, was incredibly baffled by this report. Hey, just very quickly want to interrupt and ask if you wouldn't mind smashing the like button and commenting. YouTube recently made a stealth change to how they recommend content to other people. And right now, the only view that counts according to YouTube is an engaged view. Someone that's watching the video, liking and commenting on the video. If that doesn't happen, YouTube kills that video. So if you wouldn't mind, it would really be a great help to me because it helps me bring my videos to more people so that more people can be informed and hopefully follow rational conversation when it comes to politics in South Africa. With that said, enjoy the video. Bye. The head of the security cluster says things like this, right? So there is a potential risk of a coup d'etat. We have identified it and put measures in place to mitigate against it. So that's why we say to South Africans that there will not be anyone attempting to do a coup in South Africa. In the last days or in the last few weeks, there has not been anyone attempting to do a coup in South Africa. That entire sentence, okay, so there is always a risk of a coup d'etat in every country, right? Because there's always, in every country, no matter how safe a country may be, there will always be individuals in that country that isn't necessarily convinced or happy with the direction that the country is taking. So even countries that are doing incredibly well, there will always be that risk. In America, for example, there are entire militia groups that constantly dream of enacting some kind of coup d'etat. The problem is that most of these, they're tracked by the internal services. They know that they exist, but they're so small that the government will never come out and say, guys, we caught a coup d'etat, and, because they're not really gaining traction, they're not really gaining momentum. But in the very sentence here, she kind of goes back on her own word by saying, well, there is potential risk for a coup d'etat, which we identified and we mitigated against it. But also, in the last few days and weeks, there's been no risk of a coup d'etat. Say, oh, what? What the hell are you talking about, woman? She then, I think, reveals the true nature of what is happening. Why now this is going on. She answers a question about General Khumbudzo and his safety, and she says, on the political parties that are protesting, I don't know why they're protesting, because one thing I know is that the General Khumbudzo does not need anyone's protection. We need to understand the decision of the president. And I think that is key. The way in which that was answered really speaks volumes, but it goes a little bit further. She speaks about the challenges within the criminal justice system, and that currently one of the main focuses of the National Intelligence Coordinating Committee is to clarify and decontaminate the whatever the hell that means, the national security clusters and the policing and the justice system, because apparently when something is so marred in corruption that it barely functions, decontamination is what's required, which is a very weird turn of phrase. Asked about the G20 that's happening next month, they basically come out and say, well, no worries, right? We've identified no security threats to any of the people that will be attending, and they're all super safe, which is what the country has to say. She then goes into this massive tirade about how, this is all due process, and if you do something, then I'll get on the podium and I'll accuse you. If I say something that's wrong, then you'll do the same thing to me, and we should just allow the process to play itself out. And that is exactly what the president is doing. And then everything's just fine. What does this mean? Now, first and foremost, I think this is incredibly reckless for a government official to come out and say something about coup d'etats when there is no credible threat of a coup d'etat, because this immediately sends the population into a bit of a frenzy where the population now asks themselves, wait, could that be? Coup d'etats are scary as hell. It's one of the reasons why they happen so rarely, right? Most of the time when you have coup d'etats, it is in incredibly dysfunctional countries where people haven't eaten for a while. There's not enough food. There's incredible corruption, making sure that the people are incredibly angry, and that will usually be sort of the groundwork for a coup d'etat. But normal people who are at least able to get by, they're not going to take up arms and try to overthrow the government because they're chaotic and you never know what's going to happen. They can be decent and there can be decent outcomes, or they can be terrible and you can end up with very bad people that now rule over your country. And Africa is a great case study of all of this. The scary thing, and this is why I said you should not be mentioning things like this unless there is a credible threat for it, like, for example, what happened in KwaZulu-Natal, and Colonel Chris Wyatt made mention of this. There, the security cluster completely dropped the ball. They didn't even know that this stuff was actually happening until it happened. And we came dangerously close to the ANC being unseated. The violence was threatening to spill over into other provinces. And the problem with coups, and I've done a bit of research on this now. It's funny that I'm actually busy researching coup d'etats to see how they happen. You need about 5% of population. Historically, that's sort of where most coups happen, is about 5% of the population being angry. And that it happens fast, right? So you can literally go from no coup to a complete overthrow of the government in less than a week, sometimes less than a day, because they get the police on their side, the military on their side, and especially in South Africa, where you have so much corruption and so many of our high-level police officers and our military are in bed with the criminals, right? They're criminals themselves. So as soon as these people start to feel the pinch, they might actually rise up and say, well, let's get rid of this government so we can get in power and we can run the show instead. I think the reason all of this is happening is the ANC feels their backs against the wall. They can feel the wall behind them. They know that there's nowhere else to turn. And at this moment, they want to project strength. They want to project that, hey, yes, General Mkhwanazi made some claims, but everything is under control. Don't try anything because we have your number. We know what you're doing. It's sort of like trying to play the big man so that the other big men don't realize that you're actually kind of weak. And I don't think anyone in this country believes that we have men and women bravely fighting to keep us safe. We have some, but most of the time we just have men and women who is desperately trying to enrich themselves through whichever scheme they can get access to. And this is really how this entire thing reads. The government is trying to pretend like they're not in trouble. Anyways, as always, please let me know in the comment section down below what you think of all of this. Hit the like if you liked it, if you didn't. It does help out. YouTube now absolutely pushes engagement above everything else. So if you don't mind just hitting that button and commenting, it helps me do more of what I do and more people to see what I do. And hopefully we can bring some reasonable voices back into the conversation rather than just people looking to clickbait. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.